The History of North Carolina State University, presented by Group C. In what follows, we will discuss the history of NC State's academics, the campus itself, the sports teams, and famous graduates. Academic history.
One of the most significant days in North Carolina State University's history occurred 25 years before its founding. In 1862, the Morrill Act was signed into effect by President Abraham Lincoln. It established land-grant universities and colleges throughout the United States by setting aside 30,000 acres per House representative in each state to be sold in addition to continued federal funding for these institutions. The Morrill Act placed an emphasis on agriculture, mechanical arts, now known as engineering, military service, and providing higher education to all economic classes. North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts was founded as a result of the Morrill Act. The name was later changed to North Carolina Agriculture and Technical State University due to a second Morrill Act in 1890. North Carolina State University has stayed committed to the mission of the Morrill Act. The College of Agriculture and Life Sciences ranks second in enrollment, trailing only to the College of Engineering. In addition, more generals and flag-ranking officers graduated from North Carolina State University than all other institutions of higher learning, excluding military academies. NC State has a legacy of research that has contributed to not only an overall increase in human knowledge, but also to economic development. Research performed here has led to more than 90 startup companies, 2,300 new products, and over 6,500 jobs. NC State had over $380 million in expenditures last year and leads 2 National Foundation Engineering Research Centers. In addition to the research won by faculty proposals, students also bring in research funding for their own projects. Tate Rogers, shown in the center of the picture here, was one such student. Using his experience of growing up on a North Carolina farm, he developed an enclosed auger system for the removal of human waste in developing countries. This won a fellowship from the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. We have came a long way in 125 years. 52 students attended the first classes at North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts on October 3, 1889. Tuition for each student then was only $20 per session, and students were allowed to choose between only 2 courses of study. One could major in either agriculture or mechanical arts. Now, North Carolina State University is home to more than 34,000 students and almost 2,000 faculty employees. Tuition per semester is approximately $3,900, and there are more than 300 degree programs for undergraduate and graduate students in one of the 12 colleges.
Campus development.
Following the signing of the Morrill Act in 1862 by President Abraham Lincoln, which provided national funding to establish a land-grant college in each state, the North Carolina College of Agriculture and Mechanical Arts was founded in 1887. In 1889, Holiday Hall was completed as the first and campus's main building. In 1910, Winston Hall opened, which housed civil engineering, chemical engineering, and electrical engineering courses. In 1921, the bell tower cornerstone was laid to honor State College alumni who were lost in World War I. Prior to 1924, home basketball games were held in the Raleigh Memorial Auditorium. On 1924, Thompson Gymnasium opened, becoming the first on-campus home dedicated to basketball. Thompson Gymnasium was named after Frank Thompson, a former athlete who passed in World War I. Following a failed building inspection of Thompson Gymnasium, Reynolds Coliseum opened as the home for Wolfpack men's basketball. For the next 50 years, Reynolds Coliseum would house Wolfpack men's basketball until in 1999 the first game was held at the newly made RBC Center. The RBC Center, now known as the PNC Arena, is where Wolfpack men's basketball currently has its games. In 1907, the first on-campus football game is played at the new athletic field that would later become Riddick Stadium. Over the years, Riddick Field was renovated to include concrete stands in 1933. In 1964, a groundbreaking ceremony took place for the construction of Carter Stadium, now known as Carter Finley. In 1965, the final football game was played at Riddick Stadium. And in 1966, the first game was played in Carter Stadium. Lastly, in 1968, Riddick Stadium was demolished. SOS Hall now stands on the site Riddick Stadium once occupied. In 1984, 355 acres of land was allotted to the university by the North Carolina Governor James Hunt for the development of Centennial Campus. Shortly following, in 1985, the North Carolina Governor James Martin allotted another 455 acres to NC State. In 1990, the first corporate partner joined, which was ABB. In 2000, the Centennial Biomedical Campus was established. Currently, Centennial Campus is comprised of 1,227 acres of land, which is used for engineering, textiles, and veterinary medicine. And the year 2013 is predicted that Hunt Library will open on Centennial Campus.
Sports history.
Football history. North Carolina State University's first football game was played on March 12, 1892 against the Raleigh Male Academy in what is now Pullen Park. Back then, NC State was known as North Carolina A&M, and they were called the Farmers. Their first intercollegiate game was in 1893 against Tennessee, and over the next several years, as you can see on the slide, there were other firsts for the football program, and finally in 1921, NC State was referred to as the Wolfpack for the first time. A few other significant dates in NC State's football history are in 1953, they joined the Atlantic Coast Conference. 4 years later, they won the ACC championship for the first time. Over the next couple decades, there wasn't a whole lot of significant events, but in 1995, NC State made its 7th consecutive bowl appearance and won the Peach Bowl. In 2006, NC State produced its first #1 overall draft pick in the NFL draft in Mario Williams, and that was also the year Tom O'Brien was introduced as the Wolfpack's new head coach. Basketball history. On February 16, 1911, NC State played its first basketball game against Wake Forest. 8 years later, NC State won the state championship for the second year in a row. By 1947, NC State was finally known as the Wolfpack, and in 1950, NC State made its first Final Four appearance, and 4 years later, they won their first ever ACC championship and went on to win the ACC championship the next 2 years. In December of 1965, NC State began a game against Wake Forest, which due to power outages, they were not able to finish until February of 1966. This completed the longest ongoing game in ACC history. In 1970, NC State won its 6th ACC championship, and 4 years later, in 1974, for the first time, NC State achieved a #1 ranking in the nation and won the national championship against Marquette. In 1983, NC State had several amazing come-from-behind victories in the playoffs and won a national championship that year as well. In 2007, Sidney Lowe defeated the highest-ranked opponent for a first-year head coach in school history.
Notable alumni.
Senator John Edwards obtained a Bachelor of Arts in Textile Technology from North Carolina State University in 1974. He grew up in a very poor family and was the first to get a college education. After graduating, he became a lawyer representing the little guys against big corporations in many court cases. He then went on to serve for 6 years as a North Carolina state senator from 1998 to 2004. After that, he ran as a vice presidential candidate with John Kerry in 2004. He has given back to NC State by his efforts to improve the education in this country and by speaking at one of the commencement exercises here at NC State. Governor James B. Hunt Jr. earned a bachelor's degree in agriculture education in 1959 and a master's in agriculture economics in 1962 from North Carolina State University. While here at NC State, he was a president of the Future Farmers of America chapter, and after he graduated, he went on to pass the bar exam and work with many lawyers around the state. He then served as the Lieutenant Governor of North Carolina from 1973 to 1977 and worked with the state Senate to pass legislation that made kindergarten mandatory and increased the teachers' pay. He then went on to serve as the Governor of North Carolina an unprecedented 4 times. His public satisfaction and acceptance rate was extremely high, and he is still very well respected in the state of North Carolina. While serving as governor, he passed many important pieces of legislation, most of them focused on education, and he also gave the governor the right to veto legislation and allowed the governor to run for a second term. The new library here at NC State on Centennial Campus, which he helped create, is named in his honor for his tireless efforts in improving the value, the quality, and quantity of the educational system here in North Carolina. General Henry Hughes Shelton received a bachelor's degree in textile engineering from North Carolina State University in 1963. He then went on to spend 38 years serving in the United States military. He served 2 tours in Vietnam and was promoted to Brigadier General in 1988. He then served as the chairman of the Joint Chiefs of Staff for the Pentagon for 2 two-year terms from 1997 to 2001. He was then knighted by Queen Elizabeth II. He then founded the General Hughes Shelton Leadership Center in 2002 right here at NC State as his way of giving back to his alma mater. It provides leadership training, scholarships, and leadership development forums for the residents and students here at NC State University. Dr. Bill Friday received an engineering degree from North Carolina State University. He then served as the president of the UNC school system for 30 years, growing it tremendously by adding 13 new campuses, growing the budget from around $40 million to over $1.5 billion, and increasing the enrollment from 15,000 to 125,000 students. He dealt with the highly controversial speaker ban law, which banned communism, radicalism, and desegregation from being talked about on college campuses openly and publicly. He handled it in a diplomatic and in a level-headed manner, however. He was very highly respected in the state of North Carolina and clearly gave his whole life back to education, which affected NC State greatly. Dr. Jim Goodnight graduated from North Carolina State University with a doctorate in statistics. He then served as a faculty member for 4 years beginning in 1972, in which he developed the initial SAS software to analyze agricultural research data. It now analyzes more data every day than even existed 10 or so years ago. It is one of the largest privately owned companies in the United States, and it is renowned for a wonderful and fantastic corporate culture. It invests a quarter of its profits directly back into research and development, and is used by many of the Fortune 500 companies of today. He has made the education the focus of his philanthropy and has funded many professor sponsorships here at NC State. SAS Hall is also named for his company here at NC State. Last, but certainly not least, is Philip Rivers, who served as the starting quarterback for all 4 of his years here at NC State. He put up blockbuster numbers every single year and graduated with a degree in business. He has started for the San Diego Chargers ever since 2006 and continues to give a good face to NC State in the NFL. He started the Rivers of Hope Foundation to help foster children find permanent homes and donates 100% of his external sponsorship money directly to this fund. He came back to NC State in May of 2012 and spoke at the commencement exercises.
To conclude, NC State has come a long way. What began as a small land-grant university is now one of the most prominent universities in the country. We started with a small campus, and now we have multiple campuses located all over North Carolina. Our small sports teams turned into the ACC powerhouses that they are today, and many great individuals have graduated from our fine institution.